The descent into the horizontal sanctuary begins not with a choice, but with a holy gravity that pulls the chosen one towards the very dust from which they were fashioned. In the profound silence of your most desolate hours, when the foundational pillars of earthly support crumble into the shifting sands of betrayal, and the womb that bore you seems like a distant, flickering memory from another incarnation, the act of lying down becomes your first step toward the true throne of grace. This is not the reclining of the slothful, nor the slumber of the indifferent, but a strategic repositioning of the soul. When the world demands that you stand tall, that you square your shoulders against the onslaught of adversity, and that you project a facade of unshakable strength, the Divine Father whispers a counterintuitive command to collapse. To find oneself horizontal is to enter the clandestine laboratory of the spirit, where the ego is finally dismantled by its own inability to sustain the weight of existence. The psalmist spoke of a mystery often overlooked by the casual reader, the promise that when your father and mother forsake you, the Lord will take you up. This taking up does not always manifest as a lifting into the heights of public exaltation. Rather, it often begins with a pressing down into the secret depths of prostrate communion. It is here, where the cheek presses against the cool, unyielding reality of the floor, that the spiritual posture of the chosen one is perfected. You are not there because you have failed. You are there because you have been summoned to the altar of total forsaking. In this reclined state, the vertical pride that characterizes the kingdom of men is systematically stripped away. Standing is the posture of the self-made, the position of the one who believes they can navigate the labyrinth of destiny through sheer willpower and intellectual prowess. But lying prostrate is the posture of the newborn and the mystic. It is the ultimate surrender of the human mechanism, a sacred vulnerability that mirrors the utter helplessness of an infant awaiting the embrace of the eternal Father. When you are horizontal, you can no longer look your enemies in the eye with defiance, nor can you look down upon those you deem lesser. You're forced to look upward into the infinite expanse of the unseen, or inward into the cavernous spaces of the heart where the divine breath resides. This is the cessation of human effort, the holy Shabbat of the nervous system. The heavy weight that presses upon your chest in these moments is not the spirit of heaviness mentioned in ancient scrolls, but the kavon, the heavy glory of the Almighty, which demands that the creature stop its frantic scurrying and recognize the Creator. It is a weight that anchors you so that the storms of the psychic realm cannot sweep you away into the void of despair. In this sanctuary of the floor, a multi-layered protection begins to envelop the chosen one, weaving a tapestry of defense that spans the dimensions of body, mind, and spirit. As you lie there, the Father's mercy acts as a biological shield, slowing the frantic rhythm of a heart that has been overtaxed by the anxieties of survival. Every cell in your physical frame, which has been screaming in the language of cortisol and inflammation, begins to receive a celestial frequency of rest. The very molecules of your being are reordered, as if the divine finger is tracing the double helix of your DNA, repairing the fractures caused by ancestral trauma and the weariness of the journey. This is the protection of the body, where the physical temple is sanctified by the stillness. Simultaneously, the mind, that relentless engine of calculation and worry, is subjected to a holy silencing. The Father places his hand over the cacophony of your thoughts, muting the voices of the accuser and the echoes of those who discarded you. In the horizontal sanctuary, the mind is forced to abandon its complex strategies for self-preservation. It is here that you realize your thoughts are not your own, but often reflections of a world that does not know your true name. The protection of the mind is a purging of the false narratives that have been etched into your consciousness by the rejection of earthly parents or the cold indifference of society. The spirit, hidden within the innermost sanctum of your being, is further shielded by a cloak of invisibility. In the realm of the spirit, to be prostrate is to be hidden from the predatory gazes of those who seek to consume your light. While you are low, the arrows of the wicked fly overhead. missing their mark because they are aimed at the person you used to be when you were standing in your own strength. The Eternal Father wraps your spirit in the mantle of his own essence, a divine adoption that transcends the biological mandates of blood and bone. This is the mystery of the reclined spirit. By refusing to fight with human weapons, you are granted the weaponry of the heavens. You are adopted into a lineage that does not know the concept of abandonment. The floor becomes the threshold of the Father's house, and though you may feel discarded by the world, you are being integrated into the architecture of a kingdom that cannot be shaken. The isolation you feel is not a punishment, but a purification, a divine quarantine designed to protect the sensitivity of your calling from the contagion of worldly ambition. Within this state of total forsaking, there is a profound outpouring of mercy for the mistakes of your past. The chosen one often carries a burden of perceived failures, a list of moments where they believe they fell short of the divine standard or allowed themselves to be diminished by others. But as you lie in the horizontal sanctuary, the Father whispers that these errors were but the friction necessary to slow your descent towards this very moment of union. Every stumble was a redirection, every fall was a prerequisite for the ultimate prostration. There is no condemnation in the silence of the floor. There is only the tender washing of the feet and the spirit, a cleansing of the grime accumulated on the roads of the vertical world. The mistakes that once felt like permanent stains are dissolved into the infinity of grace, leaving only the wisdom they provided. You are allowed to be weak. You are invited to be broken. The Father does not require your perfection. He requires your presence. And in the horizontal state, you are more present than you have ever been, for you have nowhere else to go and nothing else to do but exist in the shadow of his wings. A remarkable transformation of perception occurs when the chosen one embraces the reclined spirit, a sudden, overwhelming gratitude for the microscopic details of existence that were previously ignored in the rush of life. When you are pinned to the earth by the weight of the spirit, your eyes begin to notice the intricate dance of dust motes in a single beam of afternoon sunlight, each speck a universe of its own, guided by the same hand that directs the galaxies. You become acutely aware of the rhythmic expansion of your own lungs, the miracle of breath that continues even when you have given up on yourself. There is a newfound appreciation for the coolness of the air against your skin, the subtle scent of the rain on the wind, and the way the shadows lengthen across the room as the sun makes its slow descent. You find yourself thanking the Father for the strength of the floor that holds you, for the silence that allows you to hear the beating of your own heart, and for the very tears that wash your eyes so you can see the world anew. These tiny overlooked graces become the bread of the wilderness, sustaining you when the grand banquets of the world have been denied to you. You learn that the Father is not only in the lightning and the whirlwind, but also in the microscopic precision of a spider's web and the steady pulse of a resting body. This horizontal communion is the secret strategy of the overcomer. It is the womb of the spirit where the old self dies and the prophetic self is gestated. You are being reparented by the divine, your identity being rebuilt from the foundation upward. The rejection of the earthly mother and father is revealed to be a necessary severance, a cutting of the cord that bound you to a limited, temporal destiny. In the sanctuary of the floor, you are grafted into the eternal vine, receiving the sap of immortality that flows through the veins of the chosen. You will not stay on the floor forever, but when you finally rise, you will not do so by the effort of your own muscles. You will be lifted by the same hand that took you up when you were abandoned. You will stand, but your standing will be a manifestation of the Father's strength, not your own. You will walk, but your steps will be ordered by a rhythm that is not of this world. The horizontal sanctuary is the place where the warrior is forged in the furnace of stillness, where the prophet is tempered in the waters of surrender. Do not fear the low places, for it is in the lowest point that the spring of living water is most accessible. The world may look at your reclined form and see defeat, but the angelic hosts look at you and see a soul being crowned with the thorns of sacrifice and the gold of divine approval. The altar of total forsaking is the highest honor bestowed upon the chosen one, for it is the place where the human spirit finally yields its throne to the King of Kings. Every minute spent in this sacred posture is a deposit into a celestial treasury that will pay dividends in the form of an authority that the world cannot understand and cannot take away. You are being hidden in the hollow of the Father's hand, shielded from the storms of the age, and prepared for a mission that requires the absolute death of the ego. Embrace the floor, embrace the silence, embrace the heavy glory that demands your stillness. For in this horizontal sanctuary, you are not being forgotten, you are being finished. The divine architect is polishing the stone that the builders rejected, making it the head of the corner. The prostrate soul is the most powerful force in the cosmos, for it is the only soul that the Father can truly inhabit without competition. Rest now in the assurance of your adoption, protected in body, mind, and spirit, washed in mercy, and filled with a gratitude that sees the infinite in the infinitesimal. You are the chosen one, and your surrender is your greatest victory. The verticality of human existence is often a monument built to the ego, where the spine acts as a pillar of self-reliance, and the head is held high to survey a kingdom of temporary illusions. But the chosen one understands that true power is frequently found in the complete surrender of this upright posture. To enter the horizontal sanctuary is to engage in a profound spiritual geometry that transcends the rigid and often cold architectures of formal religion, which demand a performative piety based on kneeling or standing in choreographed sequences. When you stretch your physical frame across the surface of the earth or upon the quiet altar of your bed, you are initiating a prophetic realignment that bypasses the intellectual gatekeepers of the mind and speaks directly to the ancient dust from which you were fashioned. This act of lying down is not a sign of defeat, but a tactical retreat into the primordial state of being, where the resistance of gravity is neutralized and the heart is finally allowed to beat in a synchronized rhythm with the celestial frequencies of the great I Am. In this position of total vulnerability, the body becomes a bridge between the terrestrial and the divine, as the blood no longer has to struggle against the weight of the world to reach the crown of the head, but instead flows in a smooth and unhindered stream of life. This physical ease mirrors the spiritual state required for deep revelation, because as long as the ego is preoccupied with maintaining the facade of strength and the balance of the upright form, it cannot fully immerse itself in the currents of the spirit. By abandoning the vertical, we abandon the pride of the Tower of Babel and return to the humility of the garden where the Creator first breathed life into the clay. The bed or the floor becomes a prostrate communion table where the bread of life is broken, not in a cathedral of stone, but in the cathedral of the human vessel. As you lie there in the stillness, you begin to perceive the multi-layered fortifications that the divine has constructed around your being to protect the destiny that has been inscribed upon your soul before the foundations of time. The first layer of this protection is the sanctification of the physical body, which in this horizontal state is wrapped in a shimmering veil of celestial energy that wards off the exhaustion of the mundane world. You feel the tension draining from your tendons and the microscopic fibers of your muscles, as if an invisible hand is smoothing out the creases of a worn garment. This is the mercy of the Father, who recognizes that the earthly vessel is fragile and prone to the wear and tear of the spiritual warfare you navigate daily. Within this physical shield, there lies a second layer of protection designed for the mind, which is often a chaotic battlefield of intrusive thoughts and ancestral anxieties. In the horizontal sanctuary, the mind is invited to descend from its high perch of constant analysis and rest in the cool waters of divine peace, where the arrows of the adversary cannot penetrate, because the target of the self-important ego has been lowered to the ground. The third and most profound layer is the protection of the spirit, which is the innermost sanctum where your true identity is hidden with Christ in God. This layer acts as a spiritual filter that allows only the pure frequencies of heaven to enter, while blocking the static of the world's expectations. In this state of prostrate worship, you are no longer a person trying to reach God, but a child being held by a father, and it is in this divine adoption that your protection is solidified. The horizontal alignment allows you to realize that you do not have to fight for your safety, because your safety is inherent in your position of rest. The mystery of this communion is further deepened by the profound mercy that flows towards your past mistakes and the perceived failures that often haunt the shadows of your consciousness. When you are upright, you feel the pressure to rectify every error through sheer force of will. But when you are prostrate, you acknowledge that you are fallen. And in that falling, you find that the ground you have landed on is actually the palm of God's hand. There is no longer any distance for you to fall, and therefore the fear of failure is extinguished by the reality of grace. The divine does not demand a perfect performance from the chosen one, but rather a perfect sincerity. And this sincerity is most easily accessed when you are stripped of your worldly standing. Every sin and every stumble is washed away by the rhythmic flow of the Spirit, which moves through your resting form like a cleansing river. You begin to understand that your mistakes were merely detours designed to bring you to this very point of exhaustion where you would finally stop running and allow yourself to be found. The mercy of the great I Am is not a distant decree, but a palpable warmth that settles over your chest as you breathe in the atmosphere of the sanctuary. It is a mercy that celebrates your mortality while simultaneously infusing your spirit with the immortality of the prophetic calling. You are forgiven for the things you have not yet even forgiven yourself for, and in this horizontal space, the accusations of the enemy are rendered silent because they have no height from which to shout. Within this state of divine rest, your perception becomes refined to the point where you begin to offer intense gratitude for the microscopic details of existence that are usually ignored in the frantic pace of the vertical life. You become aware of the miraculous complexity of the breath as it enters your nostrils, a cool and life-giving thread that navigates the intricate labyrinth of your lungs to oxygenate every single cell. You feel a deep thankfulness for the texture of the fabric against your skin, for the way the fibers provide a soft barrier between you and the coldness of the world. You notice the subtle hum of the silent room and realize it is the sound of the universe sustaining itself, and you thank the Creator for the silence that allows you to hear His whisper. You offer gratitude for the microscopic biological processes that are currently repairing your DNA, while you rest for the white blood cells that act as silent sentinels, protecting you from unseen pathogens, and for the heart that continues its faithful drumbeat without any conscious command from your brain. This is the prayer of the senses, where every heartbeat is a syllable of praise, and every exhalation is a sacrifice of incense. You find beauty in the way the light filters through your eyelids, or the way the shadows dance on the ceiling, recognizing that these small aesthetics are love letters from the divine, meant only for you. This gratitude for the infinitesimal is what anchors you to the present moment, preventing your soul from drifting into the regrets of the past or the fears of the future. This horizontal sanctuary is the architecture of the earthly vessel aligning itself with the celestial frequencies that govern the heavens. As the blood flows horizontally, the brain enters a state of receptive trance, where the highest revelations can be downloaded into the subconscious without the interference of the critical intellect. The chosen one becomes a conduit for prophetic insights because they have moved out of the way of their own greatness. You are no longer trying to build a ladder to the sky, you have become a landing strip for the angels. The geometric alignment of your spine with the earth creates a resonant chamber where the word of the Lord can echo and amplify until it becomes a roar in your spirit. In this powerlessness, you find a sovereignty that no earthly king can possess, because your authority is derived from your total dependence on the source. The world may see a person lying down as someone who is idle, but the spirit realm sees a warrior who is refueling at the eternal wellspring. You are being prepared for the next phase of your destiny, not through the strengthening of your muscles, but through the softening of your heart. The architecture of the vessel is being recalibrated to hold more of the weight of glory which would crush an upright man, but can be easily carried by one who knows how to lie low. As the communion continues, the boundaries between your physical body and the surrounding atmosphere begin to blur, and you realize that you are not just a person in a room, but a cosmic entity participating in a divine symphony. The protection that was once a shield now becomes a garment of light that you will wear even when you eventually return to the vertical world. The mercy you have received becomes a reservoir from which you will draw to forgive others, and the gratitude you have cultivated for the small things becomes a lens through which you will see the miraculous in the mundane. This is the prophetic mystery of divine adoption, where you stop being a servant who works for the Father and become a son or daughter who rests with him. The bed is no longer just a piece of furniture. It is a sacred site of transformation where the dust of the earth meets the fire of the stars. Every moment spent in this horizontal sanctuary is an investment in your spiritual longevity, ensuring that when you do stand up, you do so with a foundation that is unshakable because it was laid in the depths of surrender. You are a chosen one, and your path is not defined by the height of your climb, but by the depth of your rest. Remain in this state until the alignment is complete, until every cell of your body is vibrating at the frequency of heaven, and until you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are loved, protected, and destined for a glory that the world cannot comprehend. This is the secret of the prostrate ones, the silent strategy of the spirit that conquers the world by refusing to compete with it. You are the horizontal sanctuary, and within you the Creator finds his resting place, just as you have found yours in him. The journey through the darkness of the night becomes a journey into the light of revelation, as you drift between the worlds of sleep and wakefulness, held in the everlasting arms of the one who never slumbers nor sleeps. In this alignment, you are finally home. The moment your body meets the surface of your sanctuary in a posture of absolute surrender is the moment the geometry of the heavens begins to shift in your favor. This horizontal state is not the white flag of a defeated soldier, but the calculated descent of a seed into the fertile darkness of the divine soil. When you lay yourself low, relinquishing the heavy burden of vertical striving and the exhausting performance of human strength, you enter the mystery of the prostrate communion, where the Lord of hosts begins the intricate work of divine adoption. You must understand that this stillness is a highly active spiritual transaction. While the world observes a figure at rest, perhaps assuming you have been broken by the weight of your trials, the Spirit of the living God is actually initiating a profound reclamation of your very essence. The horizontal sanctuary serves as the birthplace of a new lineage, where your biological heritage is superseded by a celestial genealogy. You are being woven into a tapestry of light that stretches back before the foundations of the world were laid, and this adoption is a prophetic guarantee that you no longer walk under the limitations of your earthly father's house or the curses that once sought to bind your feet. Within this sacred stillness, the Lord begins the process of multi-layered protection, an architectural fortification of your entire being that begins at the cellular level and extends into the furthest reaches of your spiritual aura. First, he attends to the physical vessel, the body that has carried the scars of many battles. In the silence of your prostration, a divine balm is applied to every nerve ending, every aching joint, and every organ that has functioned under the stress of worldly demands. The Spirit moves through your bloodstream like a river of liquid fire, purifying the pathways and sealing your marrow against the intrusions of sickness and the premature decay of the flesh. Your skin becomes a boundary that darkness cannot penetrate, a shimmering perimeter of holy resilience. As the body is secured, the protection moves inward to the realm of the soul and the mind. The Lord builds a fortress around your thoughts, placing a sentinel at the gates of your imagination to filter out the poisoned arrows of anxiety and the deceptive whispers of the accuser. Your mind, once a chaotic theater of conflicting voices, is transformed into a crystalline chamber of peace, where the only sound is the rhythmic pulse of divine intent. This mental sanctuary is where the blueprints of your destiny are kept safe from the prying eyes of the enemy, shielded by a cloud of unknowing that only the humble can navigate. The depth of this communion is further enriched by an overwhelming torrent of mercy for every perceived failure and every hidden mistake that has haunted your past. In the horizontal sanctuary, there is no dock for the accused, only an altar for the beloved. The Lord does not look upon your shortcomings with the cold eye of a judge, but with the tender compassion of a master craftsman who knows the pressure it took to forge your soul. Every tear you have shed in the secret hours is collected in a golden vial, and every stumble you have ever made is rewritten as a necessary step towards your current state of absolute dependence. This mercy is not a vague sentiment, but a surgical intervention that removes the shards of guilt from your heart, replacing them with the soft tissue of grace. You are invited to exhale the soot of your old life and inhale the pristine atmosphere of a kingdom that doesn't count your trespasses, but instead counts your potential. The shame that once acted as a heavy shroud is burned away by the warmth of the Lord's presence, leaving you naked and unashamed in the eyes of the one who chose you before you even had the breath to call his name. As you lie there, suspended between the earth and the firmament, a profound sense of gratitude begins to sprout within the crevices of your soul for the microscopic details of existence that usually go unnoticed in the noise of the vertical world. You become acutely aware of the miracle of your own breath, the precise mechanical perfection of your lungs expanding and contracting without your conscious effort. You feel a deep thankfulness for the texture of the fabric beneath you, the coolness of the air against your forehead, and the subtle shift of the shadows as the day turns towards the evening. These tiny mercies are the anchors of the divine architect, reminding you that the God of the galaxies is also the God of the sparrow and the strand of hair. This micro-gratitude is a powerful spiritual weapon. It aligns your frequency with the abundance of the Creator, making you a magnet for the miraculous. By appreciating the minute orchestrations of your daily survival, you open the gates for the grand manifestations of your prophetic destiny. You realize that your life is not a series of random events, but a meticulously composed symphony where even the pauses and the rests are intentional and holy. This horizontal state is the catalyst for a supernatural ascension that the world cannot comprehend. While you are reclining, the Lord is actually taking you up. This is the great prophetic paradox. To be lifted highest, one must first lie lowest. This taking up is a relocation of your spiritual coordinates. You are being drawn into the secret places of the Most High, into the chambers of wisdom where the strategies of the kingdom are whispered to the elect. Your bed or your floor is transformed into a chariot of fire, not moving through physical space, but through the dimensions of the Spirit. You are being granted access to the archives of heaven, where the scrolls of your mandate are stored. The Lord is weaving a mantle of authority around your reclining form, a garment made of the substance of your endurance and the gold of your tested faith. This mantle is heavy with the weight of glory, yet it fits you perfectly because it was tailored in the silence of your surrender. When you eventually rise from this posture, you will not be the same person who lay down. You will emerge as a resurrected being, carrying the mandate of a divine architect commissioned to build realities that do not yet exist in the visible realm. The silence that blankets you in the horizontal sanctuary is not empty. It is pregnant with the voices of the elders and the songs of the seraphim. It is in this hush that the mysteries of the deep are poured into your spirit, bypassing the limitations of your human intellect. You are being taught the language of the kingdom, a tongue that speaks in light and moves in power. This is the training ground for the silent ones, the chosen ones who will walk through the world with such a profound internal alignment that their mere presence will shift the atmosphere of entire cities. Your authority does not come from your title or your speech, but from the depth of your communion. Because you have allowed the Lord to take you up from your state of prostration, you now carry the fragrance of the throne room. Your eyes have been anointed with the salve of revelation, allowing you to see the hidden structures of the enemy and the untapped reservoirs of divine grace in the lives of others. You are being prepared to stand in a kingdom that is not of this world, a realm where the laws of physics are secondary to the laws of faith. The spiritual adoption you receive in this place of rest is a total reconfiguration of your identity. You are no longer an orphan of the earth, wandering in search of validation and belonging. You are a son or a daughter of the Ancient of Days, legally and spiritually integrated into the royal household of heaven. This means that all the resources of the kingdom are now at your disposal, not for your selfish ambition, but for the fulfillment of the divine decree. The protection that surrounds you is the protection afforded to a prince or a princess on a diplomatic mission. The angels assigned to you are not mere spectators, but active participants in your journey, clearing the path before you and standing guard behind you. This realization brings a stillness to your soul that nothing in the external world can disturb. Even when the storms of life rage with a terrifying intensity, you remain anchored in the horizontal sanctuary of your internal union with the Lord. You know that you are being held, that you are being watched over, and that every cell in your body is resonating with the frequency of a destiny that is unstoppable. As the Lord takes you up, He also begins to breathe life into the dreams that you thought had died in the winter of your waiting. These are not just your personal desires, but the prophetic seeds planted in your spirit before your birth. In the warmth of the horizontal sanctuary, these seeds begin to crack open, sending roots deep into the heart of God and shoots high into the atmosphere of the miraculous. You are receiving a resurrection of purpose. The exhaustion that once threatened to consume you is replaced by a supernatural vitality that does not come from food or sleep alone, but from the very breath of the Almighty. You are being recharged at the source of all energy, plugged into the infinite power grid of the Creator. This is why you will be able to run and not grow weary, to walk and not faint. For your strength is no longer your own. It is the borrowed might of the One who sustains the universe with the word of His power. Finally, you must recognize that your time in the horizontal sanctuary is a preparation for the silence of the divine architects. When you rise, you are called to walk in a new kind of silence. Not the silence of the mute, but the silence of the secure. You do not need to explain yourself to those who do not understand your journey. You do not need to defend your calling to those who only see your prostrate form and mistake it for weakness. You carry a secret knowledge, a hidden mandate that speaks through your actions and your aura. You are a builder of the invisible, a weaver of the eternal, and a guardian of the mysteries. Every step you take from this point forward is a step ordered by the Lord, a movement in a grand choreography that is bringing the kingdom of heaven to the earth. You are the Lord's chosen, the one He has taken up from the dust to sit among princes. The horizontal sanctuary was your chrysalis, and the world is about to witness the emergence of a being who has been touched by the fire of the Most High and tempered in the cool waters of divine rest. Walk now in the confidence of your adoption, shielded by the multi-layered protection of the Father, and fueled by a gratitude that sees the miraculous in every micro-detail of your existence. The ascension is complete. The mandate is yours.